I'll step off the soapbox now as players getting ready for game two. Josh Sokol up 1-0 in a best of 5 finals. A second victory here would be huge. Joey looking to respond, and we'll see if his gambit to switch sides of the table will pay off for him.
Yeah, yesterday we had the hat with Jackson, and maybe that hat cost him. Both players are hatless. I repeat, hatless. That's a bit of a Simpsons reference in honor of Joey Mallick, who is always making Simpsons references in our chat. Josh, as you were talking about players promoting the game, has basically devoted his life right now to trying to get Scrabble bigger. He's got his active channel. Please, those of you on Twitch, follow him, twitch.tv/Axertypo, AXCERTYPO. So lots of players doing lots of good things. Will Anderson, who was just named Player of the Year, we know how much he's done for the game, getting that job at Scopely. But the game has begun. We are going to shift to the action, and Joey's probably going to have to throw back this cue. He's got a pretty nice rack, but the cue just does not work here.
Yeah, the cue, definitely the Trojan horse here for Joey. I think an exchanging of Q and N, perhaps the best thing for him to do. Sport looks to be the best synergy with those remaining tiles, although holding RST, RPST, NRTS, a lot of good options, but I don't think you play out of this rack. The Q is just so bad. And Joey is going to exchange not QN, but QP. A little risky, but, we'll see. And Josh opening again with the bingo, this time Novelle, Novelle for 78. So 2 for 2 on opening turn bingos for Josh, though Joey's exchange does pay off, and he will hit right back with the bingo of his own. He's got options through the O and through the C, and through the E's in Novelle, though no double doubles available.
Yeah, Josh, defying the odds here. I think it's about 1 in 8 shot to get a bingo on the opening rack, and he's done it twice. Even with a French word here, he loves to see that. He did his college in French. He's quite fluent. Joey's going to look for the best bingo here. So the first spot you'll want to look for is a double-double through that E to hit 2 multiplier squares. So he'd have to go through all the anagrams, like corniest, and see if any of those fit with the E in that position. And if not, he'd want to look to see if he can get a bingo hitting the triple word score in either direction. And if not, he might look to hook an S onto Novelle and play a 7 like Cistron or Citrons.
Yeah, I think Crostino, it is the highest scoring bingo, and it is what Joey should do here. In this instance, just grab the points. It's so early. Crostino, what he's going to do.
I wonder if both players know for sure if that takes an S or not. A lot of those Italian words that the O is the singular and the I is the plural, sometimes you can add an S on the end and sometimes you can't. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on going forward.
Joey picking up a blank and butter to go with it.
Ooh.
So a great post-bingo pull for Joey as Jackson, excuse me, I've seen so much Jackson, I'm just dropping his name out. Josh pulling close to his streaming handle, Axertypo, but CINQ going to be a good way for him to play off the cue that Joey has just exchanged. I wonder if that bag was shaken well enough or if that cue was sitting right on top.
Yeah, there are certain words in Scrabble where when you have them, they're often the right play, and Sank is certainly one of them. As Joey's going to play buttered or
no.
butterer.
Oh, no. He's missing the double-double burettes, Burettes.
Oh, hooking Sanks. Oh,
Joey
no.
Playing
Joey's
too quickly here.
A bit too fast last game. He's playing a bit too fast here. He's such a good wordsmith. He would definitely know this word. He could definitely find it. I understand you see butter on your rack. It's so natural to go, oh, look, I have a double-double. But if you just look one square over, you see you can hook that S to Sanks. And I wonder if the adrenaline in playing for the championship he's waited for so long is having him rushing to plays a bit more than perhaps he'd like.
And yet the miss not going to cost him as another incredible draw, AEEPRS blank for Joey. So mistake leads to a great pull, and Joey likely going to run away with this game after that draw. Both blanks, 3 consecutive bingos. Josh, I wonder if he sees Buret's was a possibility and knows he's dodged a bullet. Josh, also with that X, he would love to have an E to play Lex underneath Buttered, but he's going to have to cash in Fax here, and he'll get bingoed on once again by Joey.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily like running away to the point where he can't be caught. He's only up by 3 here. The bingo will put him up, a bingo score, but there's a lot of game to go. And even though we've seen a bunch of bingos come down, it hasn't necessarily been the nicest tiles coming down. We've seen like a V, 2 C's, an X, an F, a Q. So there will still be a lot of balanced tiles going forward. So we still could see a lot more bingos, especially with 2 players of this caliber of word knowledge.
For sure. So Joey, I think his obvious play, again, is Permeace to the E. You would see that triple word score and you want to hit it, but he actually has one higher scoring bingo available, and that is Ab Amperes from the AB, a 9-letter bingo. Would put the P on the double letter as well, score 80 points. So will Joey take the extra time, or will he find that bingo using the E and drop Permeace quickly? I don't expect him to do anything but one of those 2 options, except perhaps take the bait and hook an L or hook an S on Novell or Crostino, which both do not take S's. But I don't know. We'll see what Joey does. Hopefully he does not play a phony here. Hopefully he finds at least Permeace, but Ab Amperes would be awesome and a great little flex for stream.
Yeah, I'm showing my lack of word knowledge. Nouvelle, I guess that's the French for new, so it wouldn't take an S. I know the French word nouveau, but like when it comes down in a Scrabble game, it just looks like an English word. It looks like it would take an S. Cristino, I didn't think did, but again, would I have been 100% sure? And Ab Amperes, so the players know the 5-letter words really well, so they would know ab ohm, ohm. That's a different unit of measurement. So this would have the same sort of formation of the word. So even if he hasn't studied this, being a 9, he might recognize it as a word. But I think that's a tough ask. I think we're more likely to see Permeace here, although I don't know if Joey studies 9s.
Ab Ampere is an 8, so I expect that Joey knows it. But once again, Joey missing both Permeace and Ab Amperes, so 2 blanks and 2 hugely squandered opportunities. You see Josh very curious. Cesar recommending in chat, make terrible plays if you're Joey to tilt Josh. Although also, perhaps Joey electing to do this because he knows now this board is quite tight after pleasers. But I think this is not a tactical decision. This is another miss, as Joey perhaps having a little bit of brain drain after a very long tournament, maybe a little bit of anxiety, drawing these great racks. I don't know what's going on here, but I expect better play from Joey.
Yeah, I just think he's maybe rushing things a bit. Permeace having 3 E's, it might be a bit more difficult to see. Ab Ampere, you're right, that is an 8, so it would be a word he knows, but that's a tough lane to look through. But I agree, I would expect to touch more. The board, it does close things now that I know that Novell doesn't take an S, but there still are all those nice lanes down from the SER SF pleasers. And Josh could certainly open the left side of the board if needed, maybe playing something with AB going down that way. So we'll see what he looks to do here. He doesn't want to leave that big scoring spot open that Joey just opened in case that being beneath the E of pleasers. But he also wants to keep this board open long term. So this is a very difficult decision. This is the sort of turn I think we're going to see Josh take quite a lot of time on.
Yeah. Tough decision here for Josh. Uvia through the V in Novell. Really sneaky play there. Holds AIRR, which is maybe not superb, but scores quite well. Akai through the C in Sync. Or racier as well. I don't know how Josh approaches his turn, and if he feels like he needs to get this board open. Despite being bingoed on 3 consecutive turns, he's not down all that much right now. How desperate does he feel?
Yeah, the equity thing would be to try and get rid of one of the duplicate R's, one of the duplicate A's, the U, and maybe the I, just because you already have so many vowels. But like you could play Akerai, I guess would sort of be the equity play. But if Joey's able to either obstruct beneath pleasers or score really well after pleasers, then Josh is in a really difficult position. So I'm not sure the equity play is the sort of approach you want to take here. That being said, I still haven't thought of a better alternative. Again, in the chat, if you have any ideas, we love to hear them. And Matt, which play would you be leaning towards at this moment?
I don't know. This is a tough turn, and this is one where they all look like rather similar plays. I kind of like this play of Uvia, but I'm going to feel really bad if I end up with a bunch of 1-pointers that don't score. So I think I prefer playing through the C. Oh, Akerai Aura as Josh playing Racier here. Racier holding AU. I think I play Akerai over this, but Josh,
Yeah,
going
I
maybe for a
prefer
little bit more
Akerai
turnover.
also. Just keeping that R seems a bit nicer. You also keep the E, so um, it just seems like a better leave. It only scores 3 fewer points. We'll see what Joey does here. The W combination really puts him in a difficult position, especially with that Y. So, um, hmm.
Yeah, Joey holding 2 U's on his rack, so Josh likely not going, well, can't actually draw another one, which would make his rack bad. But AAIOOUB, not what he was looking for after that turn.
Yeah, Josh showed a bit of a reaction there. He's definitely been giving us some facial expressions. I think they're more for our sake than for anything like with Joey. I don't think Joey really reads his opponent's facial expressions. It's something I definitely try and do. Some players give away a lot more. Josh is very reactive at the table, um, even though maybe sometimes his reactions can be a bit opposite of what you think. Whereas Joey, I think, is a bit more staid at the table. So yeah, like I just don't see an obvious spot to get rid of these tiles. Like he has the K to go above AB and an E to go above the F, but I don't see a play. Oh, yuck. See, that's exactly the sort of play he wants to do, starting to obstruct in that area. But it also leaves the S open of pleasers and also makes underlaps maybe a touch easier now that you can put an E beneath the blank S because us turns into U's when an S doesn't just take an E for SE.
Yeah, yeah. It makes hitting that triple perhaps a little bit easier, but perhaps a little bit harder. I don't know. There are plays like a WREN would be devastating, but Josh with nothing good here, and he's going to dump 7 tiles, which makes sense. Dump 7, maybe dump 6 and hold an A. Or maybe he could have played AVO in the top left, making OF for 22, but AIOU, such a bad leave, and you're likely just to get thwacked. I think Josh has to do that here. And Joey now, BGJMRTU, has some decisions to make himself. I think a play of Bumph, BUMF, to the F in facts makes great sense for him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It gets rid of a couple of his ugly tiles. The J works nice with the B with short words. You could get into job, jab, jib sort of stuff. And bingo's down from the J, while they would score a lot, aren't too likely. So he has found Bump. He will play it. And I like the exchange of 7 by Josh. I like the play of Bump by Joey. And I think we're really seeing some high quality play here.
Yeah. After a few uncharacteristic misses, we'll now see some straightforward plays. And Josh, that Z is huge as it plays underneath pleasers. TIZ at C and Yes is 51 points. Double L's, maybe not what you're looking to hold on your rack, but 51 points propels you right back into this game. Josh needs to make that play.
Yeah, za going to the right or tiz going to the Z. It works either way. I think tiz makes a bit more sense. It scores just a bit more. And then the leave might be a bit galling, plenty of pun intended, but I think it'll work okay. And you said 54, so that would
51.
bring him to 235, and he'd only be down 34 points.
Yeah, 51 points. It's 269 to 232. Joey ahead by 37 and does have good plays on top. He did draw into Job, as Jared suggested. Also, Goby or Doby, Goby or Doby. through the B up top. Those are 42-point plays. I think we see Gobi here. It looks very straightforward. You do hold the J, but JO will play on top of Yuck, making JUS and OK. If you draw an O, many O's left to be drawn. And the J would be good for blocking. You have a lead. Josh probably going to try to open this board after you score very well in that spot. So the J, not something I'm scared to hold, and those points too much to pass up, I think, with Gobi.
Yeah, I would also play Gobi over Job. I would consider Jury. It doesn't open anything, or Judy. That also works. Holding the R, which goes better with the GTO. So I think this looks better than the other plays.
Judy, 30 points, GORT instead. What Joey doing? Bypassing some points to keep things extremely tight. And Josh is going to try novels. He's drawn into gallops. And even if Josh thinks this may not be good, I think he's in a situation where he needs to try this. He has no other great options.
I think so too, but look at Joey's face. He is not accepting it. He was staring at it. This is when you really want to read your opponents. He froze the second Josh started playing there. He was staring at it. Normally you see him pick up his pen, start to get ready to write down plays. I could tell instantly from the way he was looking at that. If I had put down gallops and seen his reaction, I think I would have pulled it back.
Yeah, Joey with a big tell there, but Josh either doesn't pick up on it or has already decided, I've got to do this and I've got to do it with confidence, maybe get it into his head. I bet Josh in the postgame will say, I didn't think it was good, but it is so much better than his other options. And at some point, he needs to know if that's a word. So even any uncertainty, I think that's a reasonable play. Or if you think there's a chance you can sneak it by, you've got to make that play too. Neat decision by Josh, but it is going to backfire as Joey immediately challenging and making it obvious to everybody at home that that's exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah, I thought it was like a French word meaning new. It seems to be a plural form of novella, so I think it might actually come from the Italian. But either way, Josh, I think he definitely had to try it there, but I think Joey gave a very clear tell. Joey has goatier here, which is one of those strange words that I can't believe is acceptable, but it is, but it doesn't play on this board. And he definitely doesn't want to be the one to open up the bottom. But there is still a lane for bingos to end in E to novelle. If you can end it with maybe IE or double E or even AE. So he knows with Josh's rack, that's not a concern right now. When you know your opponent's rack, you want to take longer because you can really start to permutate more. It actually mimics more of the end game. This is another difficult turn because there's not really many places that he can score. What would you be trying to do here, Matt?
The play of BIOG atop Judy looks to be pretty solid here.
Yeah.
It holds AERT, which is a great leave. I'm concerned about a play like SILL from Josh next turn. I know his full rack. I don't have an S. If he sets it up in a way that's difficult to block, I'm in some trouble. So perhaps I want to hold the G, but I think BIOG just too good a play to bypass here.
Yeah, the leave is really flexible here. SIL is definitely the sort of thing we could see Josh do. I love how you're thinking about what he's going to do there. That's what players want to think about when you have that knowledge after having challenged off a phony. I don't really see what else he could even think to do. I guess the problem with a play like SIL is he's only leaving POGAS. You know, you could bingo on that, but you're not going to bingo on that very often. And if you don't bingo on that very often, you've just only scored 4 points, and you're setting up a lane that isn't going to be all that valuable to you if you're not doubling there.
Yeah, no, it's not a great play. It only scores 4, and AGOPS is a terrible leave, but at some point you've got to open this board up. I just don't know what else could be done. Maybe Josh plays POM to the M in Bump, or Josh playing Pole here, which is a similar play, get that S more powerful, get this board a little bit open. That makes some sense for Josh as well. And AGPS looks like it could bingo more often for sure than AGOPS.
Yeah, the leave is definitely a bit better. We'll see what he draws here. I think this is going to be a very crucial draw in this game as he draws DOF. So Definitely not the sort of bingo tiles he was going to need, as Joey has a very flexible rack here. The W and the duplicate A aren't great, but Earth, the other five tiles, sure are.
Joey has a really nice blocking play in WAAH alongside pole.
Oh, I love it.
WAAH taking no back hooks. So yeah, I like that to address the S hook. He knows Josh has the S after the phony was challenged off. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, that's one of the plays that's a bit harder to find. And one of the reasons is it's a bit newer of a word. I feel like Joey has studied words for a couple decades now. And so for someone like me who showed up to the scene a bit later, that's a more common word. But I find some of these players who really did most of their studying years ago before such words existed or were permitted, they sometimes have a blindness for seeing those sort of plays. So we'll see if Joey's able to come up with this idea.
Yeah, WAAH doesn't completely obstruct the board. There's still potential for high scoring triple overlap bingos to come down. And Josh will just continue by stacking and continuing to open the board. But I think it's a great play, and you don't mind getting into a stack fest here if you're Joey. But he opts for WAE, a similar play that does similar things, but doesn't quite muck up the board as much. A bingo starting with an S would still play for Josh. So I think another potential missed opportunity for Joey. Now several this game, but he is still ahead by nearly 100 points.
Yeah, I think that's a miss. I think if he had seen Wah, he would have played it. So that definitely hurts a bit. Like you said, if it went into a stacking game, that would work well for Joey. Stacking plays allow both players to score. And when you're ahead, you're okay if your opponent scores a bit stacking because you're going to score a bit stacking right afterwards.
Yeah,
Um, and,
absolutely.
and by stacking, we just mean multiple sort of overlaps, parallel plays. Think about staircases. You often see it in more amateur games where players play these short little 2 or 3 letter words going down to the left or up to the right sort of thing. The one thing that would have really hurt would be that 3 overlap bingo that went all the way down to the triple lane, but at least that he'd still would have left RET, which would have been very flexible to address anything that would have been open.
Yeah, I like that play of WAAH a little bit better, but alas, this one's going to work out just fine as Josh has missed anything good or compelling on his draw. This rack, not fun, not flexible for Josh. There are 32 unseen, 25 in the bag, so Josh doesn't have to rush necessarily, but needs to continue scoring to give himself some life in this game. I wonder if we see the obscure 6 Fodgel, Fodgel, play to the EL. That's a 6 that doesn't take an S to my knowledge, just a random word that exists. Yeah, it's an adjective. So no S. Josh looking at it as well. That's going to open this board in 2 ways. The poles spot will stay available, and he'll give himself an F, O, and D floater to play through. So I think Joey's play of WAE going to give Josh a lot more life in this game. I really don't like that play as it allows that S spot to stay available. And Joey knows Josh has an S.
Right. I think we have seen Joey use more clock this game. I think I was a bit critical last game that maybe he was rushing things a bit. Uh, we still have a lot of tiles to go. So, he didn't find it. We're going to have to move on. He's still in a commanding position and he still has flexible tiles. There's no better feeling when you're ahead than knowing that even if they hit me with something, I have these nice tiles that work well together that will allow me to make a responsive play. As Josh plays Fogel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, trying to open up that left side of the board to give himself a few floaters. The obvious way to sort of block that is to sort of play 3 tiles above, but Josh has that poles spot he's now set up with his SAP leave that would allow a bingo going to the right.
Yeah, that's why you've got to play WAAH over WAE. Now Josh going to have life for the rest of this game, likely.
And I'm seeing in the chat that a haw eater, which was a very close word that Joey could have had, is someone, a resident of Manitoulin Island. They were asking if I was familiar with it being from Toronto, and I've definitely heard of it. I have not been there, but it's funny to see how some of these words come in the dictionary. Liveyer, Liveyer, is someone from Newfoundland, and that was taught to me by someone from Newfoundland, Bryn Bowen. So it's really interesting to see how some of these words show up because they feel pretty obscure and something like maybe you wouldn't think would necessarily be in our dictionary.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The chat warning, a haw eater may be seen as offensive to some, so don't go calling your neighbor a haw eater or you might start something.
There you go. But Joey would love to get rid of that V, or maybe hang on to it, knowing it's a great defensive tile. Um, you don't want to play something like hover, like some sort of equity play like that, really opening the board and giving lanes. You definitely want to keep obscuring, maybe playing above Fodule, like I said, but I'm not seeing an obvious way to do that, at least not without keeping both A's. So he is
Josh,
going to make the sort of play I didn't like, which is giving Josh all these beautiful floaters, an E and an R. Would you make that sort of play?
I hate it.
Yeah. I'm a bit surprised. I think Joey, maybe like you said, he really likes to work towards bingo racks, and I call it the equity trap. As we learn this game, we learn what are strong tiles, what do you want to keep, what do you want to play. But you have to always remember the score, the shape of the board, the game situation. And Josh has been giving faces like, what is this? He's giving me the tiles I need, but I just drew such direct W, couple I's, and oh, I left sap. What's going on here? I should be winning.
Right, yeah, rather frustrating. And I just think this play of voter stringing an E and an R and keeping the polls spot alive, like it's giving Josh life in a game where Josh should not have life. Josh has spotted the awesome patois, Patois through the T in voter. It is 37 points, which would close his deficit quite a bit, but all but eliminate Josh from winning this game unless he picks up that final S and is able to draw a bingo in the voters spot or draws a crazy 9-letter word. So patois, a nice play, but one you just can't do in this situation, I think.
No, you can't kill that pulse hook. Joey just did you a favor by opening the board. So uh, it's tough because like I'm almost thinking exchange, but you're already down 100. Then Joey can maybe start playing defense. We'd see he might play something like DAH and EH, which would take out the E and the R that he just opened. Um, there's just no real way to sort of open up the bottom right quadrant that I can see. Yes and Tiz was such a killing play. It scored so nicely for Josh, but it really killed his chances of opening that side of the board.
Let's pull the unseen pool up as I want to make a point. I think Josh maybe needs to play DAW here down from the D with so many A's
Wait,
and
DI.
Oh my goodness. Okay. He notices and picks it back up. Joey smirking because he saw it as well. I think Josh needs to play DAW here. The reason why is because there are 4 A's and 4 N's unseen. AN is his most likely draw, statistically speaking. That would score well. It would allow the polls spot and the voters spot to stay open. No easy blocks for Joey. And it gives him pulls into Sinopia if he does pick up that AN, Sinopia. So I think DAW, despite that IIOPS leave, makes sense here. And yet, Josh, I think maybe having shown those tiles already playing patois, but this really feels like throwing in the towel to me.
No, pull it back, Josh. Again, equity-wise, this is a phenomenal play, right? Like, you have such a terrible lead. WI is not a nice sleeve, but at least it scores. But you can't take away the polls hook. You need that S hook. But yeah, like your play of DAW would definitely work. You could draw to Sinopia. Maybe you have to play on the left side of voter going down just to really open things up. But like POI, for example, POI, leaving WAIS.
Josh looking at Dow, and Dow seems to be the
Okay.
equity play, but specifically I like Daw because of all the A's unseen and the Sinopia draws. Now he'll need ON to hit that, although there are other things he can pull as well. I think this is a decent idea, and Joey can't really score the easy points on the left side because if he does, he's going to allow Josh to maybe pluralize his word and extend all the way. So Josh not quite hitting Sinopia, but now an in will give him that next turn as well.
Yeah, now he could look for a one-tile fish. The S is so strong on this board with polls, with voters, with fodules, and Josh has
That
an
was
S.
not a word.
Oh, right. Fodula was that obscure 6. I'm showing I'm not using any programs right now, as I think people can tell, because I've made at least 3 word mistakes in this one game with butter, novels, and Fodules. But um, this is why I'm at home right now. I'm feeling very rusty. I haven't studied uh, basically since hitting 2000 in Lake George a year ago, except for a really brief binge of studying before I played the tournament in Montreal.
Oh my
Oh my God, a
God.
triple he's opening.
Why would you why would you do that? Agonized is in the pool twice.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my goodness. Okay, well, I
I,
have no words. I'm not going to say anything. We'll just talk about Josh's next play.
I just don't get it. Joey's such a strong player, but I feel like he's not adjusting to the game situation. He just keeps making the sort of play you might play if the score was neutral.
Yeah,
But
equity robot.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Agonized is in the pool twice, man. Like, oh my goodness. What are you doing?
does he still know any of the tiles from Gallops, or did those all come down? Because that would at least know that maybe he didn't have Agonized. I don't think
Just
he's
the
played the
P.
P, right?
Yeah, just the P.
So the P definitely makes withstanding a triple for at least one turn, knowing there's no blanks and he has the P. That's going to be a really hard spot to hit, right? But what Josh could maybe try and do is open up somewhere else. I don't know. I would never do that. I would be terrified to do that.
Perhaps Joey very confident there's no way Josh can triple with the P on his rack, but I just do not agree with that play at all.
Okay, so Kenji's pointing out that because he showed patio, Joey should know
Oh.
he has at least AIP, which would make, I mean, agitprop, is that there? No, I don't think there's an R. Um, but just the fact that I could come up with agitprop in 5 seconds would terrify me to make a play like that, right?
And I mean, he knows Josh has AIP. Josh can play PIA for 31, holding great tiles, and maybe hit a polls bingo next turn. You know Josh is going to crush the spot, even if he doesn't triple. I just think that's a ridiculous play and not well thought out.
Yeah, it's not what we want to see here at Division One in the finals, but um, yeah, it was the play. We've seen Joey make a lot of good plays this game too. I really like that play of Judy. Yook made a lot of sense. Josh will come back with Pia. He will score. That makes sense. A bingo's not enough for Josh, except for the triple. And it's just, he wasn't close enough to fishing for something. And he knows that Joey would probably have to block there, although that's not an easy spot to block if you don't have an A.
Yeah, the equity play here is side meat from SI. So let's see
No,
if Joey
don't play
plays that.
side.
Josh drawing more vowels. He's not going to win this game.
No, it's basically impossible with the way Josh has been drawing. He has had a case of vowelitis, and the only cure is ending this game and going on to game 3 and starting to draw better. The
Josh really
mechanics
needs
of
to sit
Scrabble.
on the other side of the table here. He needs to get up and make sure he returns before Joey and sit back on the left side of the stream.
Yeah, maybe we're doing a player goes first, sits on the left, but we've seen a lot of bingos to start in both of these first 2 games. As I see David Eldar get up from his game, it looks like that one's over. I know the Collins fans are eagerly awaiting the results to be posted. It looks like Heidi is laughing with Wellington there. Joey's close to something like meathead, but he doesn't have to be thinking about bingos here. Is there a way he can obstruct the pole spot?
Not really.
No.
Ooh. I think Josh has one maybe sneaky option to get back into this game. He could consider trying to fish for a play like Insidious from the IN, hitting voters as well. He's not very close to it, but that could be a sneaky way to hit a bingo where Joey is not looking.
Yeah, and Insidious, the longtime handle of Sid Morale, our newest member of the 2000 Club. So congrats to Sid. He has been tearing it up in tournaments lately. And I know he said he really wants to be back at Nationals next year. So look out for Sid to make his triumphant return. And then with the way he's playing, expect to see him right in contention. So Joey has just under 9 minutes left here, and he continues to have flexible tiles while Josh has the vowels. He is going to, okay, he's going to just stop at sighted, which does float a D. Looks like Josh held the play. There are a million words in that little rack, edits and diets and tides and whatever. So Josh, that's the sort of word people might not be sure about, but he has now accepted it. You saw the thumbs up.
I think Josh has one chance to get back into this game now, and that's a play down from the G in Fodule. We've got 5 tiles in the bag for Josh, so he'd like to play off about 4 here, 3 or 4.
Like
Gonia or Genii both play in that spot, and Josh has to score now and hope that he pulls a bingo. A Gone, Agone, a similar version, though it holds 2 eyes.
No, I think the Gonia play looks really nice. It's exactly what he wants to do. It lets him score enough where if he hits a bingo, he might actually be able to pull this out. Joey continues to have nicely balanced tiles, which is going to allow him to really be in a commanding position. Sorry, How many did you say were in the bag?
5 tiles in the bag now.
Okay, so Gonia would only leave 1 in the bag. That would put Joey in that difficult position where if you try and block, you're emptying the bag, and an out bingo could cost you the game. So a game that we really felt Joey had in strong command is still in his command, but it's gotten a lot closer.
Yeah, we'll see. I wonder if Josh looking for 9s that he can play maybe from the AG that he can draw into to try to win this game, maybe looking from the IN as well. But I think at this point, not just a bingo is going to win you the game. You have to score now and bingo out. So I think a play like a Gone or Gonia is his best shot.
Yeah, and I was pretty tough on the idea of side meat, but one of the nice things it does is it really doesn't give Josh the chance to sort of fish on this turn to get himself closer to a bingo. So, I mean, it did give a lot more floaters, but leaving fewer tiles to let Josh have a path back to victory, knowing he's going to have to score and bingo, might have actually been a bit more advised than my first thought. These are really tricky positions. These are the sort of positions that are going to decide our champion. So Josh now has Gonia set up on his rack. We also said a Gone is a possibility. He might need to put a word there that he can pluralize Gonia.
Genoa.
Genoa, yeah, that would pluralize, like a type of sausage, I believe. Gonia would be the plural already of Gonium. So this is tricky. He could also just play a Gone and hang on to that E for bingo chances, like AGON not with the E.
Oh, yeah, not with the E as well. Yeah, I don't know. He needs to score a lot now. He needs to try to figure out what bingos he could draw. So he's going to look at each of these plays, a Gone, Gonia, Genii, Genoa, and try to figure out what bingos are possible. What inferences as well can I make from Joey's last plays? What tiles do I think he retained on that turn? Try to figure out what's in that bag, what he's going to draw.
Yeah, and Lord Vinon in the chat is pointing out side meat stops just 1 square above the triple name, which would allow huge bingos if Josh could have hooked it with the S. Definitely trying to keep things tight if you're Joey here.
The side meat was 100% a troll, and if Cesar's being serious about that being the play, Cesar, please exit the chat. Thank you. Cesar has to be trolling here.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going all the way down there to the second bottom line. That is ugly.
Oh, yeah, that was the joke the whole time. So
well,
thank you
that's
for
what I thought originally.
Chat.
And then when I saw his comment, I was like, oh, it must stop 1 square higher and not be quite as bad. But either way, I definitely don't want to give all those floaters. Josh has been working his way towards a bingo. He just played off PIA. Joey is taking his time here. He's feeling the pressure. Josh is feeling the pressure here as he tries to decide what to do. Now, I think he has a Gone without the E lined up as he's working through these racks, but he only has 3 minutes left. And
Josh should use every second on his clock here, as if he does pull a bingo, he will get one turn to drop his bingo. And if he doesn't, who cares if you go over time? He should use down to, just the amount of time that it takes for him to set down, count, and go out with his bingo. He's not going to have to think next turn. Or if he does have to think, he's already lost the game. And so have you.
Yeah. And so he'd be up 92 after side meets. So a bingo would still allow Joey a play to score afterwards, which would be enough for him to still win. These are the sort of things that are really tough to figure out. It's such a tight endgame here. Sorry for the poor commentary as I go back and forth. Gonia was our first thought. It is the one he's going to go to. He can definitely hit a lot of bingos from that. But will bingos play even if he draws them?
Yeah, I mean, maybe potentially bingos from the A, from the I, through the D. Josh at this point, I think, just trying to figure out if he can get lucky. Now, the unseen pool to Joey, AEIINSSU. I think he doesn't have to be worried about getting hit by anything here. I'm not seeing it. And many, many 100% wins for Joey out of this situation.
Yeah, now I think Joey can do pretty much whatever he wants. Those tiles just aren't gonna work too much. I guess if he played something like Homed, like he set up, I think Indujas could be coming back as a response. Would that be enough to win? I haven't done the math. So
Indujas. That doesn't quite fit, does it?
if Homed plays next to Sighted,
Oh.
yeah, so did he just allow the possibility of Indujas? Would that have lost him the game? If Josh had drawn a U instead of an E at some point?
Induja doesn't take an S. It is already a plural.
So that's the fourth time I've tried to pluralize a word that doesn't take an S.
And,
I apologize, folks. I'm going to start maybe quackling my thoughts before announcing them.
No, you're actually just fired, Jared. Get off the stream. I'm going solo.
I don't know why you said I was such a good commentator. I've gotten very rusty, and there's so many words, and I don't know how these players keep up with them. There was a time when I studied and I had a much better grasp, but it's amazing how quickly I feel like confidence in the words really gets past you.
I played the school Scrabble championship in 2004, 2006, I believe, and Joel Sherman was there saying word knowledge is like drinking out of a styrofoam cup that has a hole in the bottom. You try to fill up the cup and then water just continues leaking out of the hole and you have to keep filling up the cup and it keeps seeping out. So yeah, if you fall off, if you don't study even for a little bit, you get very rusty very fast. And I definitely feel it as well. I just have Quackle open to try not to make these mistakes as often.
Yeah, I have no shame. I like to show people you can get a very high rating even with very many holes in the game, although like you said, that cup analogy by Joel Sherman, just such a great person, is phenomenal. And I really do think as you add more, others spill out. And if you don't add more and words are spilling out, it's just getting even worse for you. So Induja only takes an L. And I also want to thank the 3 or 4 people who said they appreciate me and want me to keep going. As he plays, is this a word?
Yes.
Sane?
Yes, it is.
Okay, see, that's 5 mistakes. It's like I don't even know what I'm doing. What
Yeah,
sort of word is that? That one looks really funny.
I've never seen this either. This is actually what Sanious, Sanious, comes from. And despite me just getting a doctorate in pharmacy, I didn't know that this means a fluid discharged from wounds. So kind of an old word, maybe coming from sanguinis and all that. But Sanies is in fact a valid 6. Why does Josh know that word? It is one of the most useless words. SANY not valid. SANIE not valid. It is a 6 with 2 S's. It's also the right end game for him. So just
Josh consistently makes the right end games, and his word knowledge has gotten so strong. He used to be someone more like us who maybe had a high rating but didn't have a grasp of these words, and he was over 2,000 for a while, even with poor word knowledge for a top player. And now that he's taken the time, I think in 2 straight years he's gone through every 7, every 8. And he does the daily quizzes, the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, all of them, the 9s. And when you can beat people without the word knowledge, the second you get the word knowledge, you go from being dangerous to nearly unstoppable. As we saw Josh destroy this field, only losing 4 games before the finals. But
let's get to overhead mic here, see if we can catch some banter real quick, not to cut you off.
DH too. So
Yeah, no, it's a good play. You know, it's dead to this.
could have suasion. The U was the last letter. So
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was dead to this, but I don't know.
which is. So we don't do play numbers anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems like not a very interesting postmortem. I was wondering what Josh was going to say about maybe potentially novels and what his confidence level was in that, but it seems like they're more interested in this last sequence instead and what may have happened with those last few turns. But Joey filling out the results slip now. That'll bring our finals to 1-1 overall, which means we are now faced with a best of 3 situation to crown our champion at the Scrabble Players Championship. Josh making some faces for the camera as well. I've gotten word that there will be a lunch break, and with the players' blessing, they're going to cut the lunch break a little bit shorter than they had anticipated, planning to come back and play round 3 at 1:15 Pacific or 4:15 Eastern. So we will be cutting away for a little more than an hour, shorter lunch break than usual, and we plan to return then. Y'all can plan your afternoons around that as well. With that, we will cut away as well, get our commentators a little lunch break too, and our team on the ground. I am Matt Canik. I'm joined by Jared Cappel today. We will be back at 1.